Hello, folks, and welcome back. We're looking at some more Vancouver VGC regionals action today, featuring a couple of very fun things, including one person who's made it onto the live stream several times at EUIC, as well as a pretty exciting treat here that we always like to see. We love a bit, and I think we have a pretty fun bit here that we're going to see. We have Taran Birdee and Donghun Youm. This is, I think, Taran Birdee's fourth or fifth time appearing on the live stream, and of course we have Donghun Youm getting ratatouilled by getting ratatouilled by a Meryl, and then puts the hat back on. I love a little bit of a gimmick. How's he gonna put the headset on? Oh, he has to think about it. How's he putting the headset on? Okay, putting it on behind the hat and then just taking the hat off. Dude, just put the headset. Okay, hold on, put the headset up and then put the hat on. Yeah. Come on, commit to... Okay, we're gonna have to see that later. Anyways, Taran Birdee made quite a few appearances here. This is the same team that Taran brought to EUIC. There might be some small changes to movesets. I don't exactly remember what he had, but Ogerpon, Hearthflame, Ivy Cudgel, Woodhammer, Follow Me, and Spiky Shield here, going full aggressive, getting that attack boost from the Terastallization. Miraidon with the Terra Fairy, Dazzling Gleam with choice specs does a lot. Draco Meteor, Electro Drift, and Volt Switch are the moves of choice. Volt Switch coming in really huge. Urshifu Rapid Strike, my words are not coming out properly. Terra Water with Mystic Water. No close combat is the main thing. Taunt is there instead. Whimsicott, Tailwind, Moonblast, Encore, and Light Screen. This is Covert Cloak and Terra Dark. Can't get Fake Outed and can Terra away from any taunts. Iron Hands here is Terra Water. We see a lot of Terra Bug, or even we saw some Terra Poisons previously. A very standard Iron Hands loadout. However, there is no wild charges. Instead, Low Kick, Drain Punch, Heavy Slam, and Fake Out. Fergraph rounds out this team. Terra Water with Electric Seed. We see this a lot. That Armor Tail ability really helpful with a Miraidon to avoid any Fake Outs. Trick Room Helping Hand, and then two damaging moves here, Psychic and Foul Play, allowing it to hit a pretty wide range of things. That Foul Play is makes Fergraph a phenomenal answer into Shadow Rider Calyrex, which sometimes a team like this can struggle with a little bit, especially if that Shadow Rider goes Terra Fairy. But Fergraph is immune to Astral Barrage, and that Foul Play can do almost enough damage to one-shot a Shadow Rider pretty cleanly. The other damaging Pokemon here for Taran Birdee, you're going to be looking at Urshifu Rapid Strikes and Iron Hands. Obviously, the Miraidon's going to be doing a ton of special damage, but the Urshifu and Iron Hands are really going to be the primary sources of damage. Ogerpon can do a lot of damage. That Ivy Cudgel and Woodhammer can do a ton of work, but a lot of times Follow Me and Spiky Shield is a lot of what we're going to be seeing out of that Pokemon, even though it can provide a lot of use in the end game. Donghun Youm here took the hat off again, put the hoodie on. Urshifu Rapid Strike, Chi-Yu, Ogerpon Cornerstone Mask, Amoonguss Fluttermane, and Calyrex Ice Rider here. Calyrex Ice Rider is a Terra Water with Clear Amulet, High Horsepower Protect, Trick Room, and Glacial Lance. Fluttermane for Donghun is Terra Fairy. No Ghost move here. Moonblast Protect, Icy Wind, and Dazzling Gleam. A little bit of speed control as well on this Pokemon. Amoonguss notably has no Protect. It has Rocky Helmet, Terra Water. It has Clear Smog. The other moves are pretty standard, but Clear Smog can help get rid of any potential stat boost that if you might see it on something like another Calyrex or a potential Dondozo, which this team I could see definitely having trouble with. Ogerpon Cornerstone Mask here is the Ogerpon of choice for Donghun, and it is very similar. Full-on damage. Power Whip is the alternative move of choice. This Ogerpon has Sturdy, making sure that even if it gets hit with an extremely powerful move that would KO, it survives on 1 HP. Urshifu Rapid Strike here is Terra Stellar. This means it's going to be doing super effective damage into opposing Terra Pokemon if it has Terastallize, and it has a full suite of damaging moves and Surging Strikes, Aqua Jet, and Close Combat, as well as Detect, and it has Focus Sash. Chi-Yu is the last Pokemon here, rounding things out as an additional special attacker. Choice Scarf makes it super speedy. Terra Ghost, Dark Pulse, Heat Wave, Snarl, and Overheat. That Snarl could come in pretty big. Chi-Yu kind of does a, 6 of one, half dozen of another in terms of that. It can make its partner Pokemon a little bit weaker to Miraidon, but continuous Snarls over time can definitely make Miraidon that much weaker. So for Taran Birdee and Donghun here, leads are going to be, I don't necessarily know if leads are going to be all that important. I think I say not all that important as in, I think both players are going to be okay swapping things out here, depending on what is in the back, but speed control is going to be really big. Both players have the option to set up Tailwind as well as Trick Room. That means they can also reverse Trick Room. That means both Tailwinds can be up and one player can set Trick Room as well. So a lot of this is going to come down to what speed control these players bring. Whimsicott and Fergraph for Taran Birdee, and we have the Fluttermane and the Calyrex for Donghun. Or I'm sorry, it's not that both players have access to Tailwind. It's that Donghun has access to Icy Wind. I should have, my mistake. But Donghun has access to Icy Wind there, which can after a couple Icy Winds, mitigate a lot of what Taran has going on. And at the same time, if Taran just goes for Trick Room, then Donghun going for those Icy Winds doesn't quite feel as good unless Donghun wants to try to reverse it. So speed control is going to be really, really big here. Keep an eye out for that. If Donghun can get a pretty clean Trick Room up, I think that is something that Taran is going to have to be very wary of. Calyrex, there's not many great answers that Taran has to this Calyrex Ice Rider if it terastallizes specifically, since there is no electric type move on the Iron Hands. The main thing would be that Ogerpon. So for Donghun, if you can get Trick Room up and you can take down the Ogerpon, that is going to be a pretty solid win condition. For Taran, if you can stay super speedy and you can make sure Trick Room doesn't get a good opportunity to get set up and just throw out a ton of damage, like exactly what this lead is here, if you can get out a ton of damage and just keep Donghun on the back foot so that there is no pause, there is no breath to be able to get that Trick Room set up, that's going to be big. Taran Birdee here, leading with the Miraidon and the Urshifu Rapid Strikes. This is the most amount of damage that Taran Birdee can have on turn number 1. Donghun Youm has the Amoonguss as well as the Calyrex Ice Rider. This Amoonguss loves to be here right now. It could probably tank one thing from Miraidon. It's going to entirely depend, again, on what these Pokemon are trained for. Amoonguss, though, also with the Rocky Helmet, means that if this Urshifu goes for Surging Strikes, and this is a Rage Powder, and the Amoonguss survives, this Urshifu is going to be doing a lot of damage to itself. Now, for Taran Birdee here, you're likely not, unless you double up into the Amoonguss, go really, really big on it, you're likely not going to be able to get a KO, and this Calyrex is going to be able to get off some good damage. Taran brings in a Farigiraf of his own here. This is his own Trick Room Center, and does get the Electric Seed boost. That's going to be a defense boost for the Farigiraf, making, if a Glacial Lance comes out here, not as strong. We do see the Terastallization, though. This is for Donghun. Now, this is going to be Terra Fairy. Again, whenever we see the Terra Fairy, a really easy read is that this is going to be a Dazzling Gleam. Most of the time, that's what we see, especially if there's not Protects coming up or anything along those lines. We do see the Rage Powder come out of the Amoonguss, or I'm sorry, especially if we see Redirection, we can assume there's Dazzling Gleam coming out. Amoonguss is going to resist this either way. I don't think either of these Pokemon is going to take a ton of damage here, and I think that this is a good turn. Ooh, okay, that Calyrex actually took a ton, and we see a Glacial Lance out of the Calyrex. That is pretty big. No Trick Room set up yet. It doesn't quite do half to that Miraidon. That's definitely a roll, though. I don't know if that is max damage. I don't think it is. The Farigiraf is feeling pretty good, especially after that defense boost. Amoonguss now is in a little bit of a pickle. Yeah, with this Helping Hand, Dazzling Gleam on the Miraidon right now, should be able to take out the Calyrex, and there we see the Protect. Amoonguss cannot go for Spore here because of the electric terrain, so this Dazzling Gleam is coming through with this Amoonguss still on the field. I wouldn't be surprised if we potentially see a Clear Smog or a Pollen Puff come out. Clear Smog would do super effective damage into the Miraidon, but I don't know if that's going to be enough. Amoonguss stays alive at about a quarter of its HP. We do see the Clear Smog. Okay, takes Miraidon down to where it definitely would be able to get KO'd by this Calyrex here, but I don't know if that matters. I think if you're Taran Birdee, you just click the same two things again. You know your Miraidon is going to be moving first here, and this didn't really change too much. Amoonguss is going to go down to another Dazzling Gleam. We saw the math on that, and so Donghun cannot afford to lose this Calyrex Ice Rider here. Just swaps in something else, but brings in the Urshifu. That is just going to go to 1 HP with this Dazzling Gleam here. Urshifu is a very good Pokemon. This Focus Duster is going to allow it to stay up, but I don't think Taran Birdee is threatened enough by an Aqua Jet, or it isn't threatened by an Aqua Jet at all because there's Armor Tail up, so Taran Birdee is still feeling really, really good. This Miraidon is incredibly fast. I mean, now if you're Donghun, your Amoonguss is down. Does Pokemon number 4 here give you an answer, or does Taran Birdee just Helping Hand Dazzling Gleam through the rest of this game here? It seems to be working so far, and again, no Aqua Jets can come through. This might be the answer here. This is Booster Energy Flutter Mane. If it's Booster Energy Speed, I think that could do it here. This will be the big question, and it is the beat. It is the speed. Okay, this could do it. This could at least take down the Miraidon and force Taran to move away from this strategy briefly. If you are Donghun, again, it's going to entirely depend on how fast exactly this Flutter Mane is. A lot of times, even these Booster Energy Flutter Manes aren't max speed Flutter Manes. They're still bulkier. So that is something to keep an eye on. We see the Terastallization here coming out for Donghun. This is 100% going to be the Flutter Mane here, trying to get as much damage in as possible with that Terra Fairy. Again, this Urshifu, it's just not going to be faster than the Miraidon here no matter what, but it does have an opportunity to potentially get damage in on the Farigiraf. Dazzling Gleam here. I don't know if the spread move is going to be enough to KO the Miraidon. It is. Flutter Mane is plenty strong enough. Don't you worry. So, Farigiraf still on the field. It is likely going to go down to a potential Surging Strikes here, and that should put Donghun Youm up 3-2 in the Pokemon count. That said, two of Donghun's Pokemon are in pretty rough condition here. We know that there's an Urshifu in the back for Taran Birdee. That might just come down to speeds in terms of which Urshifu is going to get an Aqua Jet off first, or at least get damage off first. Taran's Urshifu is actually at full health, so I think that probably should do it. And we see that Iron Hands in the back. Electric Terrain is still going to be up for a turn or two, so it's also going to have a pretty good attack boost as well. Iron Hands with the Fake Out, with the Drain Punch, that thing, when you're in low HP situations up against an Iron Hands, even if you have the Pokemon advantage, we've talked about this before, Iron Hands is incredibly strong. This thing is insane. It's wild to me that Iron Hands fell out of the usage stats in the previous Regulation G format that we had. This thing is just stupid. It's just stupid. So, Flutter Mane here is probably Donghun's best bet at trying to deal with the Iron Hands. Unfortunately, Taran can still Fake Out into the Flutter Mane if he wants to. He doesn't have to, since this Urshifu is on such low HP, you can pretty easily take that out with the Fake Out, but goes into the Flutter Mane there. Aqua Jet comes out from Taran's Urshifu, and it does move first. Donghun could have gotten an Aqua Jet out. That might just come down to speed. We don't exactly know what the speed tie is. Flutter Mane's going to flinch. This is going to be a Calyrex Ice Rider coming out. Electricity does disappear from the battlefield, so that's going to mitigate a little bit of the Iron Hands damage, but this thing has just such a high attack stat. It's going to be impossible to deal with. Calyrex comes out. This thing is not really going to like taking a Surging Strikes or a Close Combat, and with the Terastallization already coming through for the Flutter Mane here, it is going to be taking fine damage from both of those. When I say fine, Taran does not have an issue. Heavy Slam as well into the Heavy Slam should just outright KO the Flutter Mane. You can go for Low Kick into the Calyrex to deal a ton of damage. This Iron Hands, I mean, even if this Urshifu wasn't here, I think this would still be a winning position for Taran Birdee. We see the Dazzling Gleam come through. This is going to do a lot of damage to the Urshifu. It shouldn't do that much to the Iron Hands. It'll do some, but it shouldn't do that much. Yeah, Iron Hands still feeling really, really good here. Urshifu taken down extremely low, but survives. Surging Strikes is going to take down the Flutter Mane here. I'm interested to see. I think Taran clicked Drain Punch into this Calyrex. Calyrex should get an attack boost from KOing the Urshifu with a Glacial Lance this turn. I think if you're Donghun, your way to win is potentially get a pretty big crit. But even then, it is just... Okay, so it is the high horsepower into the Iron Hands, which doesn't KO. Heavy Slam comes out. This will do quite a bit. Well, I say quite a bit. This will do a good bit. Takes out about another quarter to a third of Calyrex's HP. And now Calyrex is in a pretty rough spot here. It's just going to take 3 Surging Strikes, and that should do it. Yeah, that will be all she wrote for Donghun Youm in game number 1. Taran Birdee taking it home, although it did get a little bit close there. I think there is a world potentially where... I think if you Glacial Lance first and then go for high horsepower, I think you win it if you're Donghun Youm. I think that depends on what... Like, I think that depends entirely on who Taran attacks, but if you double up into the Calyrex and Calyrex is going down anyways, I think Glacial Lance on the first turn to put it into a 1v1 and then high horsepower, that might do it. But again, if you get hit with Low Kick, you might just get KO'd either, or Low Kick or Drain Punch. You might just get KO'd either way here. So I think that got pretty risky at the end. So I think if you're Taran Birdee, you can't be too comfortable with that game to win. Honestly, I started sounding pretty braggadocious, or about that game 1 win. I started sounding pretty braggadocious in regards to Taran Birdee, feeling like that was a lock with the Iron Hands. But I'll be honest, completely forgot about high horsepower. My brain was just stuck on Glacial Lance, and high horsepower, I think Glacial Lance first, high horsepower second would have done it. Let's get into game number 2, see if we have some adjustments from either player. And we do off the bat from Donghun Youm. That is the Flutter Mane plus the Chi-Yu right away. And for Taran Birdee, it is the Miraidon and the Urshifu. We know that this Flutter Mane is incredibly fast here. This Chi-Yu has Choice Scarf. This is a lot of damage that can come out for Donghun Youm really, really quickly here. Both of Taran's Pokemon are threatened by Dazzling Gleam and can only afford 1 Terastallization between the 2 of them. We very likely could see a switch. We could also see a potential Aqua Jet into the Chi-Yu, which would do a lot of damage. The Chi-Yu is not a very bulky Pokemon here. We see a Terastallization coming out. This is for Donghun Youm. The Terastallization, I believe, will probably be into the Flutter Mane to get max damage out of this Dazzling Gleam, which we saw do quite a lot of work in the previous game here. Now, Taran Birdee, we also saw helping in Dazzling Gleam do a lot of work for the Miraidon here, but I don't think he's going to have as good of a chance to do it in this game. We do see the Terra coming out right now. And if we saw the buttons get pressed, it is indeed this Terra Water on the Urshifu. We know this is going to be an Aqua Jet into the Chi-Yu. Again, I am pretty sure that this will KO. Urshifu is a stupidly strong Pokemon, and it can do a lot of damage. Aqua Jet comes on out here, and if this does KO the Chi-Yu, that is going to negate the Beads of Ruin. Yeah, Chi-Yu goes down. That's going to take away the Beads of Ruin, so this Dazzling Gleam from the Flutter Mane is not going to do as much damage. That said, Miraidon is still weak to this Dazzling Gleam here. It probably would have been a pretty clean one-shot previously. Maybe not even, but we see both Pokemon for Taran survive. Electro Drift comes out into the Flutter Mane here. This should KO it. It is down, and Donghun Youm is now in a 4v2 up against a Miraidon and Urshifu with no speed control and his 2 fastest Pokemon down. This is about as rough of a spot as you can be in, especially when you're down a game. Calyrex Ice Rider comes out onto the field. Okay, and Amoonguss is here as well. All right. So, for Donghun Youm, this is what you led with in the previous game. Are you confident that this Amoonguss can at least survive an Electro Drift in order to redirect Surging Strikes as well, and maybe give you a chance with this Calyrex to set up a Trick Room and go into the end of the game with that, or maybe get a Glacial Lance off, KO these 2 Pokemon that are currently up and about. Amoonguss does survive here. Where does the Surging Strikes go? Miraidon does get hurt by Rocky Helmet. Urshifu goes for the taunt. That's pretty big into the Calyrex. That makes sure there is no Trick Room coming up. If this is a Glacial Lance, though, this could be something. It is the Glacial Lance. That is going to take down the Miraidon, but I think the Urshifu might survive this. It does, due to that, especially due to being that water type. Urshifu, that resistance is huge. Miraidon is down. Calyrex does get a +1 here, and Amoonguss notably can still go for Rage Powder. Calyrex is not, or Calyrex is taunted. Calyrex does not have any damage on it. Pollen Puff, I understand the move there from Donghun Youm. Obviously, you're worried about Surging Strikes or Close Combat into that slot, doing quite a bit of, or Surging Strikes doing in that slot. I apologize. I even said that in the last game. Taran Birdee doesn't have Close Combat. Taran Birdee has Taunt. Now, Farigiraf is on the field here. Urshifu might go down to Glacial Lance here. I don't know if it's guaranteed. Amoonguss could go for Pollen Puff again, or could also go for Rage Powder. Cannot go for Protect. It has Clear Smog as its other option. Spore is still not an option, as Electric Terrain is still on the field. And for this Calyrex, really your best option, your best choice of move is to just continually go for these Glacial Lances here, unless you made a really bold call to go for high horsepower into that Urshifu that is now Iron Hand slot. That would be an incredible call from Donghun Youm. But we see the Glacial Lance come through. We did see the Rage Powder from the Amoonguss here. A critical hit on the Farigiraf doesn't quite take it out. It just barely survives, and Amoonguss goes down. That might just seal the game here. Iron Hands, we do know that the Iron Hands is slower than the Calyrex, but with Fake Out here, that does give, and this Calyrex cannot Protect, that does give Taran a free turn with this Farigiraf to do what he pleases. Fake Out comes through. Notably, that Electric Seed defense boost on the Farigiraf is like absolutely huge, but do that critical hit, it didn't matter, so we got to see kind of that raw damage output. Trick Room up now. Iron Hands is going to be the fastest thing on the field. Calyrex now shakes off the taunt, so Protect an option. It does get hit by Foul Play, which does not feel very good. And again, Low Kick here does just so much damage into the Calyrex. The Protect comes through for Donghun Youm. I think you maybe take a shot, Protect here, attack on the next turn, see if you can survive, and then hope for 2 more Protects. And then from there, see what you can do. Maybe take down the Urshifu, but it's going to come down to how much damage this Iron Hands can do. Electric Terrain wears off, the attack boost wears off. How much does Foul Play plus Low Kick do into this Calyrex Ice Rider? Low Kick does a ton. I don't think Foul Play is going to do enough here. Actually, it's not even going to get to go off. Glacial Lance comes through. It takes down 2 Pokemon. It's Urshifu versus Calyrex in Trick Room here. We see Taran Birdee with a hand to his forehead here. Iron Hands goes down. It is just the Terra Water Urshifu in the back for Taran Birdee. Ice Rider Calyrex here can go for high horsepower. We know it does a lot of damage, but I think what is bigger is that Glacial Lance should just outright KO. We see the Detect comes through, and now Taran has to try to outlast his own Trick Room that he set up. I believe there is one more turn. If Taran Birdee can get one more detect off, that should do it. The detect comes through. Unless I'm wrong, that should be it. Urshifu protects itself once more, and Trick Room returns to normal. That double detect, I think that should do it here. We saw Calyrex go down from, I think, a little bit higher than this before. That should absolutely do it. Yes, Calyrex is going down to this. That double detect from Taran Birdee, making it through. Donghun Youm almost was able to take this to a game 3, but Taran Birdee, outlasting his own Trick Room, takes it home in 2. That is a very close game. From a game 1 where maybe a slight misplay at the end. Again, I haven't run the exact math here, but looking at that, at least at the time, there might have been a way for Donghun Youm to win that. And then at the very end there, that double detect from the Urshifu to close it out for Taran Birdee. That was a fun match. That's been the most fun one of Vancouver so far that I have had the pleasure of recounting. So until next time, y'all, we have a few more rounds in day number 1 before we move on to day 2 and Top Cut. Until next time, be safe, be smart, make wise decisions, and farewell.